Szanowni Państwo, witam na panelu wystąpień wideo. Podczas dzisiejszego panelu mamy 3 wystąpienia. Zaczynamy wystąpieniem pani dr Katariny Circi z Uniwersytetu Peloponeskiego w Koryncie. Następnie pani profesor Urszula Oszwa, a ostatnie wystąpienie pani dr Walczewy Dymitrewej z Varna University of Management. Zapraszam Państwa do wysłuchania prelekcji pani dr Katariny Circi.
The development of children's personalities can be differentiated into various levels, which can be either related to the school environment or beyond school activities. In play, and especially vigorous play, the brain has to regulate and suppress initiations to action from the limbic system, and consequently, this system is being developed through this kind of activity. Therefore, by giving children greater access to play, it helps them to regulate impulses better and even to facilitate brain maturation. All the above activities, which focus on students' personality formation, aim for them to gain more knowledge, sharpen not only their critical thinking through experimental engagement, but also improve their communication with their peers. Project called Trace contributes on these aspects, and its purpose is oriented to all the above. The main aim of Trace project is to use the tools of informal education in order to provide innovative and accessible ways of learning. Furthermore, the project, which will be discussed today, promotes and develops the importance of volunteering and international cooperation. The goal is to enhance the critical thinking through traditional children's stories and to motivate them to read and understand literature and raise the importance of the cultural heritage through education and lifelong learning and supporting skills development. Today's presentation is related to the main objectives of Trace workshop, the content of it and its outcomes of the children's interaction with outdoor activities and the benefits to their personal development. Trace was designed for European teachers who work with children from age 6 to age 12. Through traditional stories from EU countries, teachers, educators and librarians will get to know more about EU countries. In the frame of Trace project, 4 partners from Greece, Latvia, Croatia and Spain have had a collaboration on the same topic. The traditional in each country tales. The main purpose of the project was children's impact with one of the most alive part of heritage, the stories tales. The idea was to choose some traditional stories, translate them, and eventually share them with the other partners of the project. Some key aspects were the different ways of expressing, different languages, various ways of iconography, the ideas behind the stories, different messages and lessons. For the Greek side, Dr. Despina Karakatsani, professor in the University of Peloponnese, Department of Social Educational Policy, was the responsible investigator. The project performed in the Peloponnese, Trace project included workshops in which young age children participated. It took place at school areas. The project aimed to introduce children to an alternative way by which they may discover countries not known by them. It also focused on children's reaction with other, new to them cultures through storytelling. Through this way, we're able thus to value their own culture and develop the critical thinking while they are discovering countries not known. I will focus on my personal experience and my participation in Trace project. Before sharing that, I would like to briefly present you the project. More specifically, the stories are selected from EU countries, Spain, Croatia, Latvia and Greece. The stories are traditional and old. The partners translate in English the stories and after that each country translates in mother tongue. The story selected by the Greek side for this workshop is Icarus and Daedalus, Wings, and the Traveler and the Goldsmith. It's a Spanish tale. The steps followed are reading stories from a narrator, designing performances based on the stories, questions and discussion, activities. The main materials used during today's workshop are arts, papers, markers, music, drawings, Socratic method and dialogue, questions, intercultural exchange, proverbs, moral lessons, promoting thinking, cooperation. More details for the workshop that took place in primary school. The narrator encourages the children to form a circle with a desk and places a chair in the center for him. The narrator distributes with papers, markers and crayons to all the desks. She reads Spanish history first. The reading is done with the background music. In this workshop, I chose Hadzidaki's Beautiful City. The children were asked to draw what they think while the narrator reads the story a second time. After some minutes, the time for painting stops. They reveal their drawings to the rest, and the dialogue begins with the help of questions addressed by the narrator. Activities follow. Some questions for reflection. For example, about the traveler and the goldsmith. How would you describe the traveler? How about the monkey, the snake, the tiger, etc.? And for Icarus, why did Icarus fly so close to the sun? Have you ever wanted something too much, even though it was impossible, dangerous, or forbidden? How did you feel? And some indicative emotion questions about feelings. For example, how did you feel about the goldsmith's ingratitude? Or what is the lesson of the myth? We chose two activities for children. The activity 1 was the role-playing game. The children are invited to participate in a role play. They choose the role they want from the hero of the fairy tale. They are divided into groups and try to represent the fairy tale. They appoint a director, write the script, and present their performance. The second activity was about solving problems. Children discover on their own the problems arising from the stories. The facilitator sets a story problem for the children to solve. They are divided into groups and try to investigate the problem, to identify positives and negatives of the hero's attitude, to propose ways to deal with the problem. Through storytelling, children develop a spirit of community and cooperation. Tales reveal fundamental social values, for example, faith, justice, compassion, courage, honesty, trust, peace, safety, and other important qualities. Storytelling encourages children to develop the ability to understand, solve problems, and apply practical knowledge to acquire skills that contribute to the children's quality of life in the contemporary world. Drawing. Children are encouraged to create their own drawings from the story and through them represent their ideas, feelings, emotions about the heroes of the story. At the end, the group creates a small sketchbook with the drawings of all the children. Socratic method is a means of evaluating beliefs by examining contradictions among their implications. The aim of Socrates' philosophical method is always ethical. Moral dilemmas. Through this strategy, the conscience, morality, individualism, critical reasoning, and ethical principles of children are worked on. Children learn to apply the acquired knowledge in other tasks or contexts, similar or not, are encouraged to think critically and express their feelings by working in pairs. Main values in the tales. Responsibility. Children learn not to be risky and to act only after having examined all possibilities in each situation. Humility. Apart from having self-confidence and self-knowledge, one should learn to be humble and not arrogant about one's capacities and skills. From this story, children are taught to be humble about all the things and skills they have and to continue to cultivate their spirit and personality. Just as may have various facets in a child's life and is strongly associated with fairness, objectivity, transparency, etc. Creativity. Creative thinking is very important, and one should learn to use one's imagination in order to find a solution to one's problem. Children learn that there are no limits in our thinking and that we can achieve our targets if we are creative, inventive and persistent. Respect and tolerance. The main characters in this story are judged by their actions regarding different people in each situation of the stories. Sometimes we make the mistake of judging people because we do not understand them and we try to change them, and sometimes we underestimate the others. Hence, it is important to teach children respect and tolerance. The children enjoyed the workshop. They improved their communication skills by sharing ideas and expressing their thoughts. They developed critical thinking and imagination. Thus, they improved their self-confidence and built a strong character. Thank you.
Szanowni Państwo, po wystąpieniu pani dr Circi mam zaszczyt zaprosić Państwa do wysłuchania prezentacji przygotowanej przez panią profesor Urszulę Oszwa. Pani profesor jest dla mnie autorytetem, mimo że nie jestem pedagogiem. Niestety nie może być z nami, jest na seminarium w Japonii, natomiast przygotowała dla nas wystąpienie. Zapraszam do jego wysłuchania.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to this very important and big event. I hope with a huge international impact to the research, science and education and child care. I would like to have my little input to this conference and congress with a topic related to children's emotions. Let me introduce you to math anxiety and math resilience in updated current academic research and educational practice. Why math anxiety? It could be other topics anxiety, but math is specific. Math is complex, math is coherent, math is incremental, math is also internally linked as knowledge. So it's a bit more complicated in terms of structure than other domain. Also, in math, you usually have the answer related. So answer is right and wrong. So it means that you may experience some unpleasant emotions when you're wrong, when you're not right. Problem solving is also problem. So if it comes to problem is usually also the difficulty. So with the difficulty, it's not always nice and easy. You may experience failure, and this is why you may experience more unpleasant emotions. Math anxiety is then unpleasant emotion related to math problems solving and is definitely not conducive to the logical thinking of the students. According to the research, there are a few types of math anxiety. It could be fear about learning mathematics, so we call it learning math anxiety, but it could be also fear related to exams, so it's more common. Test math anxiety. It could be as well anxiety related to numbers. When you think about numbers, when you think, oh, this is mathematics, you feel scared and you feel anxious and you just can't think logically. So it's number math anxiety. And there could be also, although it's not established in the research yet, math teacher anxiety, because from the experience of the students, it seems like math teacher could be also a source of anxiety. It's basically everyday life math anxiety as a specific type as well, but it also, all of those above anxieties could lead to everyday math anxiety. That one will be more common for adults grown up already, but it's related to a life that involves plenty of mathematics, like calculating the amount of change when shopping, when giving tip in the restaurant, when you see any discount, how much less you pay, or price differences to compare, tax, bank interest, and so far. So you may be afraid of those operations because you've got math anxiety. There are different sources of math anxiety. Usually, you start with negative social attitudes towards mathematics. Early negative experience with mathematics at school may also play a big role and have an impact to your emotions related to mathematics. There are also educational stereotypes, especially the one saying that mathematics is the domain of men, not the women. So it would mean, and some people, some teachers also believe in this stereotype, that if you're a girl, you may not be that good in mathematics because mathematics is the domain of men. And if you're a female, again, opposite, you may think, oh, I'm not good in mathematics, I never be. So that may gives you extra mathematics. Educational system, which is usually in many countries behaviorist rather than constructivist, could also lead to some anxiety in mathematics and some personality factors too. There are consequences of math anxiety on different levels. So cognitive level usually shows, and this is based on the research, decrease in working memory capacity, and part of this working memory is occupied by nagging thoughts. And this working memory is very important for calculation, for mental calculation especially. So you usually work mathematically, but in greater cognitive costs. There is also attention control deficit because you control part of your mind, controls the anxiety, thoughts, worries. It could be decreased in fluency of speech and logical thinking if it comes to explain the way of your thinking in front of the teacher. There are also behavioral signs of math anxiety, like escaping from avoiding math lessons, escaping from anything related to mathematics, math tasks, math tests, and decrease in efficiency of task solving. There are as well distance effects of math anxiety, like global avoidance. So you design your life in such a pathway that you won't need to meet up again with mathematics. So basically, you avoid situation when there is anything related to mathematics. It could be as a consequence that you don't appreciate mathematics, you just don't value it. You underestimate mathematics in everyday life as this is not important, I can survive without mathematics. Avoidance of courses related to mathematics, sometimes it's quite difficult. For instance, psychology students may avoid mathematics, but eventually they come across statistics at their psychology course and they struggle a lot with that one. Negative attitudes towards mathematics and teachers of the subjects could be also as a consequence of the math anxiety and sense of lack of math competence during life. Math anxiety could be related to math achievement, and it's quite important in school children, school students to analyze this. And this is based on research, evidence-based information about 3 kind of theories, concept, and hypothesis, how those two, math anxiety and math achievement, would be related. So the directions are actually all possible. So first is the deficit hypothesis, and it shows the relation towards from low math achievement to high math anxiety. And it's quite obvious. When you've got low math achievement, you're afraid of having more problems. The other one is less logical, but it is quite well proved in the research that when you've got high math anxiety, it may decrease your math achievement. Some students have got high math anxiety, and they may not be as bad in mathematics, but they want very badly to have the maximum result, and they may have the low one because of this emotion as well. And the third hypothesis and approach shows the cycle of it. So the relation between those two variables, math anxiety and math achievement, is quite both way working. So math achievement, if it's low, increases math anxiety, and math anxiety, which is high, may decrease math achievement. In a psychosocial context, coming to the practice of math anxiety information, the psychological context of prevention is quite important. So it's not only the teacher or the student related to the topic of math anxiety, it's the whole group of people who are involved, and there is a place for them. So firstly, parents. They supposed to inspire mathematically students and their teachers first, in play, positive attitudes, without pressure to mathematics. Second group, they are teachers of preschool and early childhood education, and the positive attitudes, their attitude towards mathematics and useful topic, useful value and domain, and this kind of arousing curiosity instead of unconscious transmission of mathematic anxiety, because the research also show that there is transmission. Those teachers who are afraid of mathematics may transmit unconsciously this fear to the students, especially early education students, and especially the girls. So this is quite important. And the next group are mathematical teachers. So on the next level, where the mathematics is taught as a separate topic, subject, the teachers also could be those who increase or decrease or have influence to decreasing or increasing math anxiety. And we also want those who will decrease math anxiety rather than increase them. Psychologists and educators are also those two groups important if it comes to support children and teachers and parents to be more happy and flexible and effective, efficient in mathematical lessons. Another subject related to math anxiety is mathematical resilience. It's a quite new subject, new topic, new term as well, that is related to the ability to maintain positive emotions related to mathematics despite difficulties experienced by children when solving mathematical problems in the process of learning mathematics. So the first model, obviously, the model is related to the general mental resilience, and the next kind of level of resilience is school or academic resilience, and within these brackets, mathematical resilience is quite a narrow but also a relevant term. The first model was designed by Claire Lee and Sue Johnston Wilder, and I presented this model in my book, published in Polish, Math Anxiety, which obviously I recommend for those who are more interested in the topic of math anxiety. And the model shows that math resilience is based on 4 different pillars related to education. So first pillar is about mindset in education, and especially growth mindset by Carol Dweck and head theory. So to develop mindset in terms of growth mindset is very important base and foundation for math resilience. The second pillar and line in this background of math resilience is educational optimism. So the theory and concept of Martin Seligman. The third line is related to self-efficacy. So the more we build self-efficacy based on Albert Bandura theories, the more the student would have resilience and math resilience too. And motivation, this term is especially presented in this model based on self-determination theory by Deshi and Ryan. So it is quite important to develop the autonomic motivation rather than external motivation. So the more autonomic motivation the student will have, the more resilience they would be. Obviously, the next level underneath is social level. So in this model, family, students, and teachers are quite connected together to support students as such and to force and reinforce more growth mindset, optimism, self-efficacy, and autonomic motivation. And as a result, in the model, we've got 3 dimensions of mathematical resilience related to value of mathematics, thinking about difficulty in mathematics, and thinking about students' personal potential of growth in mathematics with support from the adults, from teachers. And here we've got the kind of model of helping children and seeing their problems in mathematics. So comfort is a comfort zone when students are good in mathematics and they can solve certain problems, but they don't grow, they don't develop. If the problems are too difficult, they come to the red zone, which is anxiety zone, which is not good because they struggle emotionally and they can't develop neither. So the best is the red circle. We need to keep the children there, students, because there is the zone, the sphere between those 2 circles, and its place for growth. To take home message, I would sum up that math resilience is a skill worth developing in 21st century education in order to overcome math anxiety and achieve success in learning mathematics. So to avoid math anxiety is quite impossible, but to support those students who present and developed math anxiety by shaping their math resilience would be quite crucial. Thank you very much for your attention. And if any questions, any topics, discussion, reflections, please email me. Bye bye.
Szanowni Państwo, przed nami ostatnie wystąpienie w tym panelu i ostatnie wystąpienie podczas pierwszego dnia kongresu. Pani dr Wasylina Walczewa-Dimitrowa to pedagog, który pracuje na Uniwersytecie Zarządzania w Warnie, z którym nasz uniwersytet dość intensywnie współpracuje. Pani doktor była u nas. Niestety okazało się, że nie może przyjechać, bo mamy strajk pilotów i kontrolerów lotniczych w Niemczech i jej podróż z 5 godzin 30 minut wydłużyłaby się do 17. Więc niestety musiała przesłać wideo. Zapraszam do jego obejrzenia.
Dear organizers, dear participants, thank you so much for today's beautiful event and the rich program, which involved many diverse topics, lectures, and perspectives on child research and education. I'm so happy to be with you today, and I would like to thank you for this opportunity to give me the floor, the time, and the space to discuss a topic that is really important to me. Although my research focuses a bit beyond the childhood age, it still has much to do with learning and exploring the learning processes in the out-of-school environment. So, as you can see from the slide, I would like to talk about youth pedagogy and how and also why it can be developed and implemented by youth workers in the context of youth work. First of all, why do we focus on the period of youth so much? We all know that youth is a remarkable step in one's development, which represents the transition from the dependent role of a child to the independent role of an adult. However, although very important, this is also a tough time, as young people experience a lot of challenges and changes, such as internal changes, like in their minds, bodies, thoughts, and feelings, as well as external, such as change in their role in the society, new demands they're expected to meet, taking over new responsibilities, and so on. Young people have many questions and not so many answers. They have new experiences, sometimes positive, sometimes quite difficult ones. And to make everything even more fun, the world we live in is also changing, imposing new challenges to all of us, including young people and adults. We still have not fully recovered from the pandemic, but we face new obstacles. We see the rapid and unpredictable rise of the technologies and artificial intelligence, which we all know that will change the way we live, communicate, work, and spend our leisure time. However, we still do not really know how exactly this would happen. But as a final result of this equation with so many variables, unknown variables, we expect young people to turn into adults who are fully equipped with all experiences, knowledges, skills, attitudes, and values for the bright future in their roles as professionals, maybe family creators, members of their communities, and citizens of our society. But how this could be done? Can we do something to support this process and help the young people? Here comes the role of the youth work. As it is still evolving and it is still gaining recognition, I would allow myself to quickly go through one of the brief definitions taken from the European Commission's publication on the quality of youth work. So, as we see from the highlights on the slide, at the center of youth work are young people who are voluntarily involved in actions aimed to support their personal and social development. In other definitions, we can also see that youth work is primarily directed at helping young people to reach their full potential. Another significant detail is that youth work happening voluntarily or in the out-of-school environment is ultimately based on the non-formal and informal learning. Examples of youth work could be different youth clubs or volunteer organizations such as the Scouts, the Red Cross and Red Crescent Youth, and many others. When young people join such, they co-create, co-organize and implement a lot of activities which help them develop new soft skills on how to behave in unfamiliar situations, how to manage their time, how to cooperate with others, solve conflicts, reach new information, new perspectives, and in many cases, new contacts. During my youth, I personally have been active in different organizations and even attended international projects and events. And talking from my own experience, I can now clearly see how all those experiences shaped me and as the person I am today. The things I know, the skills I have, as well as my attitudes and the perspective I have about the world around me. And talking about non-formal education, I just want to highlight the fact that it should be perceived and positioned in a strong relation with the formal one. I mean, formal and non-formal education shall not compete, contradict, or should not be seen as being in conflict. They complement and go hand in hand with each other. Each of them has its own characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses, and each of them is an important element of the same puzzle. I really cannot say that one of them is more important or better than the other one. Earlier today, we heard a lecture on harmonious child development, and in order to reach it, we need both academic knowledge, which would help us understand how the world around us is constructed and how it works, but we should also have the skills to meaningfully interact with this outer world. Such an idea was expressed almost a quarter of a century ago in the Council of Europe's recommendation on non-formal education, adopted on 24th of January 2000. Back then, the importance of non-formal education was already clearly visible to the policy makers due to the constant changes provoked by the rapid technological, social, and economic development affecting our society. The need for the formal education system to be reinforced and supported by non-formal education was recognized and stated. To better demonstrate the connection between non-formal education and learning opportunities and experiences and youth work, let me present two competence models for youth workers that exist on European level. On the left side of the slide, we can see the structure of the Council of Europe Youth Work Portfolio, and on the right side, the structure of the YOCOMO competence model for youth workers to work internationally, which was developed in the framework of European Training Strategy. To explain, the European Training Strategy itself is a strategic framework for youth workers' education and training, specifically in the framework of the programs Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps. This mainly involves projects at different levels of international dimension, which is the reason why the ETS competence model is focused on international youth work. On the other hand, the Council of Europe portfolio is designed to support a wide variety of forms for practicing youth work, sometimes very local and grassroots activities. So each of those competence models is presented here by the titles of different competence areas that they include. However, if we explore further them in detail, we'll see that in each of those sections we have lists of competencies defined by the elements: knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values. A very valuable feature of both competence models is that besides the textual description and explanations of different competencies in each group, they also offer tools for self-assessment. In my opinion, this makes them really valuable to support youth work professionals' development, allowing them to use models in each step of their career development, identifying their strengths, areas for development, learning goals, and also assess how well do they progress. This way, they foster the lifelong learning of the professional youth workers. Each of those competence models has its own strengths. The Council of Europe portfolio allows users to identify whether and to which extent each of the competencies is related to their work practice and context. And this way they can actually better identify which areas they should focus more on and which are not so important for them. The positive side of the ETS competence model is that it allows users to assess themselves not only in terms of attitude, skills, knowledge, but also how often they demonstrate certain professional behaviors. We can see screenshots on the slide. So as we see also from the slide, the competence groups of both models are quite interconnected, and both involve preparedness of youth workers to support learning, and we see that this is also mentioned in more than one competence group. Going further, we can also see that on national levels, the existing competence models also acknowledge the youth workers' role in supporting young people's learning. On the current slide, we can see a part of the analysis of competence models in 10 European countries. This table is a part of the final report from a mapping exercise coordinated by the Council of Europe, conducted in 2017-2018, which aimed to explore the education and career paths of youth workers and gather knowledge about youth work across Europe. I had the pleasure to be part of this research, so I'm really happy to share the results here today too. As evident from the data presented, competencies related to facilitating learning are among the top 3 most sought in these national documents. So in light of this all, we can conclude that youth work and youth workers are expected to implement an important function in terms of supporting young people's learning and development. Based on this, I believe that there is already a niche where youth pedagogy as a special subfield of pedagogical knowledge can be developed. Actually, some authors are already working and developing this concept. In German language literature, it is possible to find books and publications on Jugendpädagogik or youth pedagogy, and it is also often formulated as Waldorf Jugendpädagogik. On the other hand, we also have Michael Rzeszow's definition on youth pedagogy. On the slide, we can see it. He basically explains that junogogika or youth pedagogy explores the pedagogical influence or interaction which supports young people developing skills for both self-identification and also socially oriented way of thinking, supporting the education and socialization of young people. Dr. Martin Rolson, in his lecture, he also mentions the keywords about activations and engagement by series of learning opportunities and experiences. However, although there is so much learning in the context of youth work, and there are so many publications of non-formal education in terms of approaches, methodologies, best practices, etc., still it is very rare to see youth work and pedagogical practice together in the English language literature. Of course, youth workers have many other functions, so youth work and youth pedagogy do not entirely overlap as concepts, but in my opinion, youth pedagogy can be developed both as a scientific topic and also a module in the curriculum for professional education of youth workers. I also believe that such step would not only contribute to designing more meaningful learning opportunities for young people in the context of youth work activities, but this would also help for the wider recognition of youth work even beyond the existing international youth work community. Because the reality is that we have people who are active in the field of youth, we talk about youth work, we have a lot of activities, seminars, and so on. But if we go to people out of this bubble, we can see that not many people really understand what youth work is, what are the purposes, approaches. Some people still think that youth workers are just young people who work, which is not exactly true. So, going next, on the slide we can see some of the main characteristics of youth pedagogy. But this is far not an exhaustive list. Here are just the key elements which I identified so far. So youth pedagogy is taking place mainly in the field of youth work. So it is specially directed to the out-of-school learning. So it's pedagogy out of the school. As youth pedagogy is situated in the domain of non-formal education, of course, it shall follow the main principles of non-formal education, such as being inclusive, ensuring equal and voluntary participation of all interested young people. It should have a planned program and predefined learning outcomes. It should be process-oriented and learner-centered. In addition, it shall foster experiential learning, and it should provide safe space for young people to gain experiences and learn from them. Of course, it shall support young people's socialization and should have a holistic approach. This means to take into account young people's psychological, emotional, and cognitive development, as well also as the background, situation, and context they live in. And based on those characteristics, I would formulate the following features for the professional profile of youth pedagogy practitioners. First of all, following the good examples of the European competence models for youth workers, which we explored a little bit earlier, I believe that such a professional profile should not only describe the competence areas in terms of relevant skills, knowledge, and attitudes, but it should also provide space for analysis how often certain professional behavior is demonstrated in this context. Additionally, I would really like to involve certain self-assessment tool, so it can be used both by new and experienced practitioners and could be also implemented in the framework of attestation practices that exist in some organizations and in some countries. Next, as we see, here are some functions which are actually directly connected to the youth pedagogy characteristics which were mentioned on the previous slide. So, of course, about holistically approaching young people, building positive and equal relations with them, providing them also opportunities for supporting them and also self-advocacy. It should foster both individual and group learning, and youth pedagogy practitioners should be able to design both group interaction processes but also moments for self-reflection and individual feedback. Additionally, we should build and maintain a safe and positive learning environment, both physically safe but also methodologically. So this means to foster a positive culture of achievements in the youth work practice. Of course, we would need skills to support young people's socialization and development of social skills. And here we should have special attention about intercultural awareness and self-awareness, tolerance, ability to adapt to different groups and behave inclusively towards the vulnerable others, as well as acknowledging one's own identity and values. Of course, this is just the beginning, and this list is still to be further complemented and elaborated. And finally, let me share how I see the next steps and results I would like to achieve when exploring the topic of youth pedagogy. First, of course, I would like to initiate discussion and exchange of ideas with different stakeholders, such as young people, youth workers, researchers, policymakers. So all these contributions could help further developing the concept of youth pedagogy, which of course would be relevant to the realities of the youth work. Then we should of course focus on identifying key aspects and topics that should be involved in the youth pedagogy. And based on that, I would like to help developing learning content for youth workers, which would be appropriate and also accessible for the international youth work community. So in a couple of years, we would find youth pedagogy also in the English language literature. And in case you are or you got interested in this topic today, I would be really happy to get in touch with you later on and exchange ideas and perspectives. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day and of the Congress. Thank you.
Szanowni Państwo, serdecznie dziękuję. Tą prezentacją kończymy pierwszy dzień konferencji. Zapraszam na godzinę 20 na kolację konferencyjną do hotelu prezydenckiego. Do zobaczenia.